You're tuning in to 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester. If not, hopefully you're catching this on the Radio of Horror YouTube channel, where our guest tonight is bit of a YouTube star herself. We have Elisa Hansen on the show with us, who plays Maven of the Eventide in a YouTube channel that reviews strictly vampire content, which is awesome. And she is also an author as well, who's going to be promoting her book on Radio Horror with us. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Before we get to your YouTube channel, talk about your book, because that was a recent announcement the last couple of months on your channel.
My book, I'm so excited. I've been working on this book for years, and I finished it not long ago and found a publisher earlier this year. It's actually a local publisher, small publisher that most people have never heard of, but I am very excited, especially to be working with someone local. And they publish exclusively sci-fi, fantasy, horror. They call themselves the misfit toys of speculative fiction. All the weird stories that can't really find homes elsewhere because they're just too out there can find a home with this publisher. It's called Falstaff Books. And my book is a post-apocalyptic action novel about the zombie apocalypse and the vampire apocalypse kind of happening at the same time. And the Grim Reaper is a major character. The other horsemen of the apocalypse are in it. The main character is a zombie, and she and the Grim Reaper go on a road trip with a human, an android, and a vampire. And they have to save the world, of course, because that's how it always goes.
Now, where did the evolution of the book start?
Oh, the Grim Reaper has always been my favorite character archetype, and I've always wanted to write something with him as a major character that wasn't comedy, where he is death as the only incarnation of death that ever was. Because there's a lot of stories about humans who sort of become the next Grim Reaper, like the Santa Claus, or are one of many Reapers. But you don't see a lot that are just him, a skeleton in a cloak as a character, unless it's humorous or comedic or parodic on some level, like, Discworld and Terry Pratchett, that kind of thing. So I wanted that book, and they say, if there's a book that you want and you can't find anywhere, you're the person to write it. So I wrote it.
And when does the book come out?
I actually just got word on this a few days ago. It will be out in time for Monsterama, which is a con in Atlanta, October 4th. I'm not sure if that means it will be debuting at the con itself or it'll be out slightly before the con. But the way my publisher works is he travels around to a lot of different cons in the South and elsewhere too. He goes all over and debuts his new releases at those cons. I know it will also then be featured at Atomicon in December in Charleston, South Carolina, and there will be a launch debut event at a local Charlotte, North Carolina bookstore, which hopefully I'll be able to see some people at. But yeah, October 4th is the date I got so far, which means it'll start being available for pre-order online in September sometime. And I will definitely be making announcements on my channel and keeping everyone up to speed and revealing the cover and everything as things come along down the summer.
This is going to be a series?
Yes, it's a trilogy.
Okay.
I actually conceived it as one story, and then it wound up being 900,000 words. No, I'm exaggerating. Maybe more like 400,000 words.
So it's like
I broke it up into 3. It's like George R.R. Martin thick. So I broke it into 3, like Tolkien did. And now I've got a trilogy, which is all the rage these days.
I have one vampire ebook sitting on some ebook thing that Amazon owns right now, and eventually I'll get back to writing the second one. But as soon as I got the first one finished, I started working on the comic book that I've been doing for the last couple of years, which takes a whole lot of money to get a comic book made, where we gender swap the entire cast of Dracula.
Oh, fun. That sounds awesome.
I'm hoping to hear back from a publisher who I just sent a bunch of new pages of artwork to. They are kind of knee-deep in publishing horror comics, and I would say a local filmmaker, but he's local, the fact that he used to live in Massachusetts, but he actually lives now in LA and is very well known and regarded in the horror industry and has an insanely popular podcast out there. Praises this company all the time, so I pitched them my book, my comic book, so I'm hoping to hear back from them, as they sound like a very reliable publisher. in the horror industry of comic books.
Oh, that would be a great opportunity. I hope that works out.
Thank you. You cover sometimes comic books on your YouTube channel. The most recent one you did was a mesh of several properties because they've all kind of melded together, like Blood the Last Vampire. And you've done a little bit of like Tomb of Dracula, having mentioned it, but have you ever thought about covering like a lot of the Tomb of Dracula comics?
I have. I've never reviewed just a comic on my show yet. I mean, it's definitely possible. Mostly I'll review something that a comic's been adapted into and then talk about the comic in relation to that adaptation. But, I've got American Vampire sitting on my shelf. I've got all of the Vampirella, all these things that I can definitely get to one of these days. It's just a matter of time.
Did you ever see the Vampirella movie?
I have not. Is it as horrible as I'm afraid it is?
Oh, God. It stars Talia Soto. Are you familiar with that actress?
Vaguely.
Yeah. The only thing of that comes to mind was she was in the Mortal Kombat films from the 90s, and she played Typhoid Mary in Elektra. This was an HBO made-for-TV movie. The cover and the spine and the back cover, like let's just say all the publicity photos that you would use to market like a DVD or a VHS, have her in the costume. And for the most part, she looks like the character. However, in the movie...
She never wears it in the movie?
No, and it's the most god-awful costume predating Halle Berry's Catwoman costume.
Oh, God.
It's so bad. Roger Daltrey of The Who is in it. Like, we're not talking like musicians who can act like Beyonce or something. We're talking about like musicians who should just stay musicians.
Of course.
Yeah, it is so bad. But I if you ever get around to doing Vampirella, it is probably worth mentioning to be like, oh, there's this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you started doing this, you were part of like a collab of like with other women on YouTube, correct?
I started making videos with Lindsay Ellis back when she was doing the Nostalgia Chick. I was a co-writer on some of her episodes and then also appeared as several different characters. But my Vampire Reviews character, Maven of the Eventide, wasn't in any of her videos. That's something that I spun off on my own. But we set it up as if I was the same me becoming Maven, so we kind of tied our universes together, and she appeared in my videos too. But it was great working with them. I learned everything I know from them.
One of the things that I was constantly drawn to in the videos was how you have like your two biggest assets in the video are your unbelievable attention to detail, and the way you speak is so smart and intelligent. And the second biggest thing is the just amazing wardrobe costume changes that you have in every video. Most people will wear a t-shirt or wear a nice tie, but you have such a unbelievable wardrobe, which I know I just used that word before, but I couldn't think of another one. Just an unbelievable ensemble of gothic wear. It's the second biggest thing about your videos besides just, again, how incredibly intelligent you sound in every single one.
So basically, I'm a wonderful nerd, which I'm not at all ashamed of. I've been kind of collecting Gothic clothes since high school, but I was never brave enough to wear them in public. Like maybe a little bit, but not regularly. I kind of wore all black, but basic black. So I was never actually like a goth in public. So I had all these clothes just sitting in my closet collecting dust. And when I came up with the idea for doing Maven of the Eventide, I was like, finally, a reason to wear all these clothes that I've had for years. And people ask me where I got things all the time. I say, well, I got that at this store 13 years ago, so good luck finding it. But I wear a lot of the same things over again, but just kind of match them in different ways, so people can't really tell that I'm just repeating things. But I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to run out of outfits, and I might need to buy more, which would be great.
Or you just like you just start wearing like vampire t-shirts or something, or
I've done that a couple times. I have my like Sesame Street count shirt, and my boyfriend is a vampire t-shirt. I have so many great Gothic skirts too that I never get to wear because you never see me from the waist down.
Oh yeah, you're always sitting down. what the one film series I have been dying to see you do something with, and I'm on YouTube now, so I'm kind of looking through it, so I don't see anything on here. Where's the love for Hammer?
Well, I haven't really done any straight up Dracula. I've done some of the weird versions of Dracula, like Dracula 2000.
But there are other Hammer properties besides Dracula.
No, yeah, the not Christopher Lee vampires.
The not Christopher, yeah, like the Vampire Circus, the Vampire Lovers, Countess Dracula, which has really nothing to do with Dracula other than a name, and so on and so forth.
I talked about the Vampire Lovers in my Female Vampires videos, and also a bit in my Carmilla videos. So I have touched on that group of Hammer videos before, and I did talk about the horror of Dracula in my Lucy video. But when I have my list of things I'm going to get to, I haven't talked about Bela Lugosi 1931 Dracula either. I only talked about Nosferatu very recently because a patron requested it. Those sort of older classics, I guess I was kind of intimidated to talk about them, and also I was kind of at a loss for what to say because there's so much has already been said about them that I thought I would have more interesting things to say about things that hadn't been talked about as much. And then I had an idea that I was going to do a series on Dracula itself, and so I was saving them for that, but then that wound up not happening. So I'm kind of getting to them in bits and pieces here, but at this point, I'm mostly focusing on patron requests, because when someone requests something like, for instance, the Blood the Last Vampire, it's something I'm familiar with, but probably never would have felt up for reviewing on my own because maybe I wouldn't have felt I was necessarily the expert to talk about it. So it's like a challenge, and it gets me out of my comfort zone, and it's so much fun. So getting those requests and focusing on that has been my priority now. And I still have a list of those to get through. So when that list runs out, maybe then I'll get back to Hammer. Unless someone requests it, because that could happen.
I think my first exposure to the vampire genre was a film from the 1980s. It was an HBO made-for-TV movie. HBO and vampires, they go hand in hand. A Vampirella, True Blood, and then the first one I ever saw was My Best Friend is a Vampire.
Oh, yeah.
Starring Sean Patrick Leonard, best known as playing, I think, Wesley was his character's name on House, as well as the Robin Williams film Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, it's I get people ask me about that every now and then. I reviewed Once Bitten recently, which is another one of those 80s teenager vampire movies, so I kind of want to put some space between them. And
recently, in the last couple of weeks, there was a vampire video game that just got released, which I have not read a single review about, and I'm kind of staying away from because I don't want it to deter me from playing the game more than I am. But have you heard of the game Vampire?
Oh, I have heard of it. People have tweeted at me about it every day for months. I have absolutely heard of it. Everyone's like, hey, Maven, have you heard of this new vampire game? I'm like, I'm the Maven. Of course I've heard of it. Why are you all telling me like I haven't heard of it? I've not played it. It looks like something I would be interested in playing, though. I was actually planning on streaming it just for my followers on YouTube, just for fun, just to see what it was like. But then I caught a cold, so I've been kind of putting that off. I'm waiting till I'm in better shape. But from what I've read, it's pretty cool, but some people find it boring. So nobody's saying it's great, but nobody's saying it's bad.
It's a little level building. It's you gotta do a lot of stuff. Here's the thing. You can be, I don't want to say a cheater, but you can take the easy half-ass way out and just be a notorious serial killer and gain a lot of experience points that way. Or you can go the slow trek and help people out and only take blood from those who deserve it, kind of like, Morbius the Living Vampire would. Oh. And you're going to go through the long trek of that game if you do that, because you gain almost very little experience points versus like if you decided to just outright kill somebody. Now, if you kill somebody, it's going to affect your environment around you in that neighborhood. I don't know how many people it will take to like basically bring the entire borough down to a wasteland, but it's something you need to keep mindful of when you're being a vampire who's also a doctor.
That sounds like fun. From a gameplay perspective, I don't know that I'll have interesting feedback because I'm not really a gamer, so I'm not going to speak to that. But from a vampire perspective, I'll be able to analyze it and pick it apart and have fun with that kind of stuff.
Most of your reviews seem to be in visual media such as TV and movies, but in a couple recent videos like Vampire Bookshelf, you went into how much you absolutely love books and want to start getting more into book reviews. Excuse me, let me start over. It's time consuming to get through a book review for a video?
It's not so much that it's time consuming, it's that I wasn't sure how to review a book visually. It's easy to review visual things visually, but reviewing a book with just my head talking on the screen, I thought wouldn't make for a very good video, because who wants to look at me for 20 minutes talking when I can put, if I'm reviewing a film, I can put pictures on the screen to illustrate my points. But patrons have requested I review books, so every book I've reviewed so far has been just a book, like my video on Fledgling and my video on Istrad and the Kitty Norval series were requested by patrons, and that's another thing that they challenged me to do. So now I'm reviewing books. I'm actually reviewing a book for not the video that's coming out next, but will probably be out by the time this airs, the Anita Blake Guilty Pleasures Vampire Hunter series. I'm reviewing the first book in that. But that has a comic that Marvel did that I have, so I can use pictures of the comic on the screen, which is nice, as visualizations instead of just showing my talking head.
Why do you think that's never been adapted?
That's a good question. There's a lot of urban fantasy out there that's never been adapted. I think Anita Blake, when it came out in the 90s, would have been maybe too effects heavy to be adapted affordably, and it wasn't big enough to adapt in a big budget way. Well, nowadays it's probably just too dated.
What about are you familiar with drat? Now I don't have the author's name in front of me, and I've had her on the show too. Sunglasses at Night.
No, I'm not familiar, but
Sunglasses.
I would like to be.
She is the author also went on to write like Vampirella and Swamp Thing and has written a lot of comic books too, but she's mostly known as a novella author. Nancy Collins, that's the name of the author.
Oh yeah, definitely know that name.
Yeah, Nancy Collins.
I have not read the novellas.
Collins wrote Sunglasses After Dark. That's the name of the book.
There you go.
Okay. Yes. Are you familiar with that?
I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot about it.
It also got adapted into a comic book, so if you ever have a chance to do it, you'll have a comic book for the visual media as well. The comic books been out of print for years, but they're pretty easy to find on eBay for next to nothing.
Nice. Good to know.
Can you give us a preview or a hint of what's going to be coming up over the next in the next year in 2018 that you might be covering?
Well, next I'm covering Near Dark. That video is almost done. Should be up in a couple days. After that, the Anita Blake novel. After that, the season 2 of True Blood. I did season 1 recently. After that, the Benicula series.
Ooh.
Which perhaps you did not know, it was a 7-book series. Actually 8, but nobody counts the 8th because it's kind of a spin-off.
And it had an animated movie.
It did. Then Subspecies.
Very cool. Subspecies by Charles Band. Which also just had a comic book come out.
I'm just doing the first one to start, and then I'll see how that goes, and then maybe I'll get into the madness. And then after that, another one of the Ravenloft novelizations is coming up.
You ever thought about doing a video of like the vampires you're not going to cover, and you'll give like a quick this is the reason why kind of thing, so you don't get asked nearly as often?
I don't think there's anything that is really off limits that I would not cover. There's ones that I haven't covered yet because I had a reason, but it's never been a deal-breaking reason.
Have you ever heard of the 1980s classic, and I use classic in quotation marks, horror vampire movie Project Vampire?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's if you've ever heard of the movie Demon Wind, it's as bad to try and get through as Demon Wind.
Oh, you just make me want to watch it so bad.
It's one of those VHS covers that you saw maybe as a kid at the video store. And Demon Wind had this thing where if you pushed the cover, it made like a sound, like a whooshing sound, and the eyes on the demon would light up. Kind of like the King Kong box set, which you push his chest, he would make like a growl. the cover to Project Vampire had a woman with very large breasts on the cover, strapped down like like a coffin, and if you pushed on her chest, her eyes would light up. I never saw the movie, but it was one of those covers that you'd see in the video store to be like, hey, I should watch that, or maybe never pick it up.
I should watch them all. They're all on my list. And I always make my husband watch with me, and he's always like, all right, what are we watching this time? Oh, it's going to be horrible. I'm like, well, you don't have to watch me. He's like, yes, I do.
This is the part of the vows that's for better or for worse.
And most vampire things are worse. Much, much worse. I mean, vampires don't have a bad reputation for nothing. There's a lot of crappy vampire stuff out there. What is that? Sturgeon's Law, 90% of everything is crap.
Yes, exactly. Doing these YouTube videos for so many years, you were doing them for a while, and then of course you had a family and you came back to it, which is fantastic that you were able to return to Maven of the Eventide. What is some of the best and worst feedback and requests that you get as a female YouTuber?
When you say worst feedback, do you mean the horrible things that people say?
Yeah, we can PG it as much as possible.
Well, I guess generically speaking, one of the worst things that people say is like, why do you have to get so detailed about this movie that I like? Why do you have to pick it apart? It's just a movie. Can't you just enjoy it?
Oh, wow. That's actually pretty much the nicest thing you could probably get said to you.
I mean, it's bad in the sense of picking apart vampire media on a really deep level is why my show exists. So if you come to my show and say, why are you doing the reason your show exists? It's just like, do you just not get it? Why are you even here? Why are you even watching the show? Another thing that I get that bugs me a lot is, why do you have to bring politics in it? Because I talk a lot about feminism. I talk a lot about racism, social injustice, and toxic masculinity comes up a lot, especially in vampire media. And people just say, why do you have to get all political? Why do you have to see all this in there? It's just supposed to be fun vampire things. Vampire media came about as a fictional genre because of social issues. That's the whole reason it exists. It's an entire metaphor for society. It's like, don't watch a show about vampire media if you don't want to hear about social issues. Those are the two that get under the skin the most. But as a female YouTuber, all the, the rape threats and horrible things that people say about my appearance and threaten to do to me or say they want to do to me, I just delete those and move on. I can't even let myself think about them. I actually just finished writing a book about a YouTuber that I'm pitching to agents right now. And I used comments straight out of my comment section to put into this book for the harassment that she has to deal with. And it winds up being a murder story because people start dying, which I guess is kind of a wish fulfillment fantasy for me. It's like these horrible people. Oh, what if someone was killing internet trolls? Wouldn't that be terrible? But I didn't have to make up anything for this scary story I wrote, just copy and pasted comments. I changed the names, of course, but straight out of my comment section.
I think there's a movie. Isn't there a movie coming out, not associated with like the plot line of your book per se, but it stars the guy who played Sulu in the most recent Star Trek films goes on a hunt to find out what happened to his daughter and uses like YouTube and video streaming to do it. It was like huge at Sundance, I think.
Well, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. What is the name of that actor? He's a, Harold and Kumar actor.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy. Oh, God, now it's going to kill me. Anyway, but yeah, there's that coming out. And of course, we have if you can believe this, there is a sequel to Unfriended coming out. Unfriended Dark Web. And I'm like, isn't the web already kind of dark anyway over the last 2 years since dark. November 2016? But that's not political.
John Cho, that's who you're thinking.
John Cho, yes, he's got this like he finds out, he always video conferences with his daughter, and then like goes on a hunt through the internet to find her after she disappears.
Topical, timely.
You must be really excited that we have Hotel Transylvania 3 coming out. I say sarcastically.
It looks less bad than the others from the trailer. I'm cautiously optimistic because we haven't had a vampire movie this year.
Yeah, no? Isn't that weird? The entire genre, no pun intended, dried up.
Well, it got overdone and then nobody wanted it anymore. Now people are scared of it. You can't publish a vampire book anymore. If you're an author writing vampire books, it's so hard to get published. I've just recently seen agents saying I might be ready to start receiving vampire books, but for the last 5 years, absolutely nothing. But Hotel Transylvania 3 looks like it. Well, my problem with the first two movies was it was Adam Sandler playing this same type of character he always plays, where he's this really nice guy who hasn't really done anything wrong. Maybe he makes a mistake, but he's just so nice that you forgive him for it. And he doesn't actually grow from this flaw and become better. He just gets away with it. And I hate that character that Adam Sandler plays, and he plays that in so many of his movies. But this movie looks like it's not about Adam Sandler's issues, and will actually just be a fun story with vampires in it. So I'm cautiously optimistic for Hotel Transylvania 3. On a boat.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like the second one as much as I liked the first one, and I thought I would, and I took my kid to go see it because I was like, look, now I could be like Dracula with the father. And I'm like, this is not as great as I thought it was going to be. I just think it just went to, I mean, it's cartoony to begin with, but I just thought they went into super ridiculous cartoony territory that I haven't seen since The Little Vampire.
Yeah. Just with Dracula's whole problem being like, I want my grandson to be one thing, but if he's going to be another thing, I won't love him as much or support him much or something. And then at the end of the movie, the grandson is the thing that Dracula wants. He is a vampire. And Dracula's like, I love you no matter what, whether you're a human or a vampire, I still love you. I was like, yeah, you're saying that now because he's a vampire and you got what you wanted. If this was supposed to be a good movie where Dracula learned a lesson, he should have not gotten what he wanted.
True. I mean, they kind of. I thought that's where they may have been going with the upcoming, but no, it's currently in theaters. At the time of this video airing, it will still be in theaters. Incredibles 2, with the only member of the family that doesn't have powers yet being the baby, but it's like. I forgot. Oh wait, the baby did have powers in the last movie. It was like some type of like extra bonus thing that was on the DVD.
Well, that's also how the movie ended, when Syndrome was taking the baby up into the sky and then the baby like exploded on it, and that's how they got away.
That's right. Okay, it's been 14 years since I've seen that movie.
Me too, probably, but it's a good movie. Sticks with you.
There is... after I saw that you had done Blood the Last Vampire, I was so excited that hopefully the one day you would do Vampire Hunter D and the 23 novels that have been published by it.
Well, about that... So I watched Vampire Hunter D and Bloodlust back when I first started doing these videos, like in the first year. It was actually during Hurricane Sandy, because I remember everything in New York City was closed down, so I was just stuck at home watching Vampire Hunter D. And I watched them planning on reviewing them, and then had nothing to say about them. I was like, I don't know what to say about these movies. I got nothing. And I can tell you why now. That was years ago. But people ask about them all the time, so I thought, time has passed, I could look at them again. Maybe now that I've done so many other things, I will have something to say. But because so many people ask about them, I'm kind of waiting for someone to request them on Patreon, because I feel like it's going to happen anyway. But after I did my vampire books episodes, several people reached out to me and were like, hey, can I send you a vampire book that I love that I think you would like? Can I send it to you? So I got like a few books in the mail. And two of them were the Vampire Hunter D novels that the two movies are based on. So now I got those. So now I could do a review where I compare the novels to the films.
Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to become like a YouTube person? There was an interesting podcast that I just started listening to. I want to say it was Felicia Day got off YouTube because she believed that YouTube has changed so much. It's become either so toxic or it's just become no fun with all of YouTube's like problems with like, censorship and like what you're allowed to post and what you can't post, and their views on fair use are so ridiculous sometimes. She kind of left YouTube and went on to podcasting. What's your opinion on the status of YouTube in 2018?
Don't do it unless it's fun for you. If it's not fun, absolutely don't do it. Because it's very hard to break out to where you can make money off of it. And if you go into it hoping to make it a job and you're not having fun, you're going to be miserable. Do it for fun first, and then if you're lucky, maybe it can become a job. Back when I started, Patreon didn't exist. I was just going off whatever advertisement revenue I got, which is nothing, but I liked what I was doing. And then after I had a kid and was in a financial situation where I couldn't do them for fun anymore, that's when I stopped for a while. And then Patreon happened, and now all of a sudden I could use my videos as a source of income. So now I'm doing them again, and they are still fun for me. It is hard dealing with the toxic environment sometimes, but I am very fortunate. I do not get even a fraction of what some women on YouTube get, probably because what I talk about is so niche that I don't get a lot of attention. But all it would take is one group of trolls focusing on me that if they took notice of me, they could make my life miserable because, I'm very outspoken on feminist issues, which is a huge target. So it could happen any day. But as far as advice for people wanting to get into it, do something you love because you love it and you want to share it with the world, and then take it one step at a time from there. Otherwise, there's no point. You podcast or write books or something instead.
How many times have you been hit with a YouTube copyright problem, fair use, or any other BS, which you felt as though was, well, just that, BS?
Well, every time I post a video, it pretty much immediately gets demonetized, and then I have to file a claim to get it remonetized. I don't know why.
That's exhausting.
Probably because they're about vampires, and that might be like a flagged word in YouTube. That doesn't happen to other people. I could post a video of me talking about my bookshelf, and it gets demonetized immediately. Why? I don't know. I have recently started getting hit with copyright notices for videos that are 2 years old and never had any problems. So something's going on recent where it's happening, but I've already made pretty much all the income I'm going to make off those videos, so that's not that big of an issue. But I haven't gotten any problems with that with new things. I am very careful to use very short clips. I think the magic number is 7 seconds. If you don't use a clip that's over 7 seconds, you can usually get away with using it. For the few times where I have been flagged, for instance, I did a video on Life Force, the movie, and some person who made that movie in some respect or is affiliated with that company manually found my video because it was short clips, so the bots couldn't find it, but someone manually found it and marked it for copyright claim. And I filed a dispute, and I was like, this is a critique of the film. I only use short clips to illustrate my point, and within a day they had cleared the copyright. So whoever that person was that was targeting me was reasonable about it. But I've been very lucky. I know some people haven't.
I did a fan commentary. I do these little fan fun commentaries like a lot of people do, and I usually try to have genre people on the commentary with me, not just like a couple people sitting around, because I'm kind of a nobody other than being a radio personality. But I always try to have like a filmmaker, director, makeup artist, actor, writer, producer, maybe not associated with the film, but from the genre that can put their 2 cents into how this person is portrayed to, or doing what they're doing with their own insights into it. And we did one for My Bloody Valentine 3D, and Lionsgate hit me with it. Lionsgate in Canada, by the way. Lionsgate in Canada hit me with a copyright thing saying use of video clip. And there's no video clip in my video whatsoever. It's just
oh my goodness,
still pictures and me talking with the actress, my co-host actually on one of my other podcasts, Supernatural Creatures and Lore. We are just talking about the movie and talking about how much we love it. And Lionsgate hit me with a copyright notice. And I called them and called them and called them and emailed them to the point that my phone number then was blocked and emails were blocked.
Did you file a dispute on the claim within YouTube?
Twice, and it got rejected both times. Same thing coming back saying you are using clips from the movie. And I'm like, show me where there are no clips.
I recently joined MCN Screenwave, and they've been helpful in being able to get past some of the things I've gotten. Fortunately, I haven't had anything too bad yet, but being partnered with something like that definitely helps if you can do something.
What are they called?
Screenwave.
Screenwave. Are they a company? They what? Just explain a little bit about what they are.
They're a multi-channel network, so they take a percentage of my income, but I get more income by being with them than I would without them because they can get better advertisements on my videos or more focused output, and they also help me build my channel and make what I'm putting out there better. I'm just part of this network and they take a cut of my income. But if I had a copyright problem, I have a guy that I can go to and be like, hey, help me out with this. So instead of me calling and getting blocked, they are handling it for me. And they're just one of many different MCNs out there. But they were recommended by friends, and I've been happy with them so far. I just joined with them a couple months ago.
And you said they're called Screenwave Media?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I looked up their YouTube channel. It doesn't have any content on it at all, so I'll have to research them further, as well as anyone else who is interested in looking into them if you happen to run a YouTube channel or looking to start one.
Yeah. I don't recommend joining Maker's MCN. I've known several people who had bad experiences with Maker.
Gotcha. But take her advice, her original advice, do it for fun before you do it for profit.
And keep your clips under 7 seconds.
And keep your clips under 7 seconds. And don't, and that's the same thing applies for audio. I am waiting, excuse me, working mostly in an audio setting on the radio or in podcasting. I am still waiting for the day that the iTunes, I guess, would be the first people to do it, Apple, to come cracking down on podcasts using clips from things in their, podcast, or clips of pieces of songs and stuff.
I have definitely gotten flagged on YouTube for songs much more often than video clips. I usually don't have audio playing where I'm not talking over it. If you're talking over a song, the bots usually don't catch it. But sometimes I'll have silence where just the song is playing, and that's, it's technically not fair use. They're in their rights to flag me for that, and then I have to go back in and re-edit the video to cut out that moment. But audio gets flagged very easily on YouTube.
I have wanted to do reviews on YouTube of horror soundtracks. The problem is I would have to talk through the entire score in order to prevent that from happening, because you can't even play like a little bit without somebody or something on YouTube being like, you're playing the copyright music for 5 seconds from that horror soundtrack that you are praising and loving and giving us all sorts of endorsements for.
Well, supposedly if it's under 7 seconds you can, but I wouldn't bet money on that anymore. Things are changing so fast.
No, what was funny is that I did an entire review of the Nightmare on Elm Street CD box set. They put out a gorgeous box set containing all the scores of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, from the first one to Freddy vs. Jason. And I, went over every little piece of it. I didn't play a single piece of music. And the company that put it out thanked me for it, asked me why I didn't use any music. They said they liked the video, but it's like, but you didn't play any music. And I'm like, because you would sue me or whatever the problem is YouTube has with music. And they're like, oh, no, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, sure they wouldn't.
I'm like, yeah, but you're not Warner Brothers. You're the distributor who put out this amazing, gorgeous-looking box set, which came in a slipcase that looked like Freddy's sweater. I appreciate your comments, but you're not Warner Brothers or whoever owns the music to the Nightmare on Elm Street
You could
movies.
put out that video with that music in it. You just could not monetize it. If you were monetizing your videos through other means like Patreon or donations or something else, you could make your videos that way and just let the copyright claim sit on it and let the copyright holder make money off your video, and you'd be fine. But if monetizing off of YouTube AdSense is the only way you're making money, then what's the point? Like, why make the video for free?
Well, I only have 793 subscribers on my YouTube channel, so I definitely am not making any money because of YouTube's great change that happened earlier this year, where you have to have 1,000 subscribers and over 100,000 views in order to be monetized anymore.
In that case, just get all the copyrights. They don't hurt your account. They just mean someone else is making money off your videos instead of you.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to produce content-wise, you'd be fine.
I mean, I got sent to me by the studio who did the Gargoyles fan film. They sent a link to download it and re-stick it up, and I stuck it on my YouTube channel. And the director and producer of the fan film immediately contacted me asking me if I could take it down. And I said, why? And they were like, I'm like, you're not Disney and you're not the owners, but I am promoting your fan film because I love it and I think it's fantastic. And they got back to me within a week later, just a couple days later, and said, you know what, keep it up. In fact, we are wrong for approaching you this way, and we're completely apologetic. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I get it. But why don't you come on the show now to talk about your fan film? Because I absolutely love it. And, they let me keep it up. They're like, no, definitely keep it up. The 7,000 views that it's had are fantastic. We were just, worried about people getting confused because people were sending us emails confused. And I was like, okay, great, thanks. And we kept it up. And they've been, they came on the show to talk about their fan film and were really supportive of it. Now, if James Wan ever gets his Gargoyles movie made, because I think it was James Wan who mentioned that he wants to make a Gargoyles movie, it'll be interesting to see if Disney starts going after, independent fan film content. But they haven't done that yet with Star Wars. In fact, they encourage people to make Star Wars fan films.
Star Wars fan films are all over the place.
And that's because there is an actual video out there of Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams saying, don't stop making Star Wars fan films because Disney owns the franchise. Please make Star Wars fan films. We want you to become the next director of a Star Wars movie one day.
Oh, it was Jordan Peele who wanted to make the Gargoyles.
That's right. Okay, Jordan Peele.
But Disney denied his pitch, supposedly, so I don't know if it's actually going to happen, which makes me weep inside because Gargoyles is my childhood.
Yeah. Check out the Gargoyles fan film that was made. It's fantastic if you haven't seen it yet.
I have not. I have to check that out. I heard about it and I was kind of scared. I was like, oh no, this is going to be horrible. But if you're saying it's great, then I will watch it.
It is heavy on the CGI. I will warn you that. I mean, it's done with like no budget. So the biggest complaint a lot of people have is there's too much CGI. And I'm like, you do realize this was made by just a really small independent filmmaker, right? He has no budget for this movie. So you have to keep that in mind before
I don't care about that stuff. It's the story and the characterization and, the spirit of it that matter to me. That's what I care about. If you say that's good, then I'm excited.
It's it's about 4 minutes long. So there's not like an intense story in there, but and the Gargoyles don't show up until the end. You gotta, it's I wouldn't say it's as good as the Legend of Zelda fan film that came out a few years ago. That was released on I think April Fool's Day, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I will send you a link right now on Skype, and then you can check it out.
Okay.
All right. This whole part's gonna get cut out because it has really nothing to do with our conversation. But I might keep it in.
I can geek over Gargoyles anytime.
Oh yeah, but we might keep it in just for the discussion about YouTube content as well, because that's really important to your show as well. But you have been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I wouldn't say devastated, but it was heartbreaking to hear that you weren't doing your channel anymore a couple years ago. But I was so happy to see that you came back after you had a family.
Well, that's why I never officially quit or went on hiatus or anything. I just kind of faded away, and then I faded back in. I was like, guess what? I was here all along. But I'm very happy to be back and hopefully here for much time to come. Especially with my books coming out, I want to keep an audience interested in vampires so I can write my vampire books and have people who actually want to read them.
Definitely. Are you going to be doing any audiobooks, by the way, with your books?
There will be audiobooks not done by me, done by whoever the publishing company hires to do them. Yeah, so there'll be 3 audiobooks, one for each in the trilogy. The first one's coming out this October, the next one supposedly next October, and then the third one might come out sooner than a year, depending on how things go with the second.
Email me a link to the name of the publishing company, because I have been sending pitches to do audiobooks to several publishers, independent publishers. Oh. I recently did one for a small print press here in Salem, and I have 3 lesbian romantic comedy audiobooks that I have been the producer and director of.
Nice. Yeah. It's called Falstaff Books.
Falstaff Books.
A North Carolina publishing company.
And for anyone out there looking to get their book published, check out Falstaff Books. The Maven of the Eventide recommends them highly.
If you write weird, creepy things, Falstaff Books is where you belong.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.